Greetings. I'm Shirley Walters, immediate past president of PIMA. I live at the tip of Africa, Cape Town, surrounded by mountains and ocean. In the 10th anniversary PIMA bulletin, we are adopting the Sankofa bird image and metaphor. The Ghanaian Sankofa bird looks back, holding a precious egg in its beak, while poised to move forward. The bird symbolizes the importance of staying connected with past wisdoms, and if necessary, to retrieve them, to go back and fetch. The Akan believe that the past illuminates the present, and the search for knowledge and meaning is a lifelong process. The metaphor captures PIMA values, which understand adult learning and education, or ALE, as historically, culturally, socially, politically located. PIMA is committed to promoting, that's the P, interrogating, the I, mobilizing, the M, adult learning and education, the A, so PIMA. We know we need to engage critically with knowledge and ideas, taking nothing at face value. Recognizing the contested nature of ALE, we promote justice, democratic participation, and equity for the majority world. We join with others to mobilize and advocate for ALE, which understands the symbiotic relationships amongst individuals and communities. So the actions of promoting, interrogating, and mobilizing ALE are central to PIMA's identity. How these are interpreted, of course, will vary amongst members who are spread across more than 45 countries and most regions of the world. The question I pose in this short presentation is, how do we in PIMA maintain commitment to these values in a fractured world where the values of inclusion, democratic participation, and justice can no longer be taken for granted, and where truth is under attack? With the growing prominence of populist, racist, sexist, authoritarian ideologies and regimes, it will become ever more difficult. We are in a time of deep transition, so as Vanessa Andriotti advises, we need to buckle up. To throw light on this question, I'll glean insights from the analysis that Astrid van Kotze, Shauna Butwick, and myself did as we laid out the article on climate justice education for the PIMA Bulletin. While the insights arise thinking on climate justice, they are relevant more widely. And I'll make 5 points. Firstly, the ecological crisis is existential. Already in the 1950s, scientific data showed that emissions were responsible for rising carbon dioxide and the risks this caused to the climate. The fossil fuel industry has known this, but instead of confronting the problem, millions of dollars have been spent purposefully to mislead the world. In so doing, they've held back political action for over 70 years. They pursued profits over the common good. History is littered with examples like this, including the tobacco industry that denied connections between smoking and cancer for decades. Vested interests continue to deny the severity of the ecological crises. What is clear, we must interrogate what we are told. We always need to ask what is happening, why, and in whose interests. Secondly, there is so much happening simultaneously. To make sense of it, we need some kind of theoretical framework which helps show the interconnections amongst the many moving parts. In the Climate Justice Group, we have found an ecological feminist framework very helpful, as it shows clearly the relational entanglement of ecological breakdown, capitalism, colonialism, racism, and patriarchy. These together undergird how and why we are breaching planetary boundaries. Ecofeminism also triggers, very importantly, a process of reimagining, recreating an alternative world. We need to be confronting the here and now and also projecting and working towards an alternative, more just system. Thirdly, a key question is how to create change in a collapsing world. We need theories of change to guide our actions. Old ways of resisting no longer work. Some scholar activists are asking if activism can be both problem and solution focused when we know we do not have the answers. Scholar activists like Bayo Amalefe, Vanessa Andriotti, and Kumi Naidu argue that the need to celebrate not knowing, as there is no single story. They argue for an emergent approach which focuses on what we weave in the present, through co-inquiry, building relations, and learning together. This is a shift from activism oriented to certainty, to one which is more exploratory, informed by humility, and learning to be in relation within the vast web of life. This approach highlights education and activation, which uses all senses towards gutsy, heartfelt actions, which also bring laughter and joy. In the face of often cruel reality, writers suggest being playful, creative with others in gestures that create life and living. These approaches fly in the face of the dominant powers that seek to constrain, control, or destroy life. Fourthly, one of the most difficult learnings is unlearning. Most of us have been schooled to understand that humans are separate from and superior to all other life forms. We can use and abuse nature as a resource for our own benefit. However, we now know how interconnected all forms of life are and how dependent we are on healthy soil, sea, and air. For our collective survival, we need to unlearn separation and relearn relationality. Like the Sankofa bird, we must go back to find the precious egg from those who have been living sustainably for centuries. We are required to uproot much of what we've been taught. These are profound processes of unlearning and relearning throughout life. Fifthly, we're at a time of deep transition. We need to learn to listen to mountains, rivers, oceans, and people around the world, across social classes, across ethnicities, age, gender, language, religions. Authoritarianism is about instilling fear and separation, whereas our approach is to strengthen togetherness, interconnectedness, and solidarity. These are the values we stand by. PIMA's role in connecting adult educators, scholar activists, and practitioners across the globe in support of a just world for the majority cannot be overstated. We are in times of deep transition. We need to buckle up and stand together. Thank you.
Greetings to you all from Brazil. It's a great pleasure and an even larger challenge to be taking part in this webinar, Reflections on the Future of PIMA and Lifelong Learning. I think on such occasions it's necessary to position ourselves and to attempt to define from what context we are speaking and in what way that influences our worldview and consequently the way in which we understand what adult learning and education is and what it is, what its importance is. In my case, I have spent most of the last 40 years or more in Brazil, and whilst it is impossible to generalize from Brazil to the whole of Latin America, there are definitely some common traits. AL is still principally seen as compensatory education, schooling, second chance education, and for that reason more formal than non-formal. But when we refer to non-formal education, we tend to refer to the paradigm of popular education. And whilst the concept of lifelong learning is used in political discourse and official documents in Brazil and Latin America, It would be difficult to say that lifelong learning is a concept which inspires and influences the educational system. Education is still seen very much as a sequence, primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and offered according to age cohorts. On the other hand, the praxis of popular education has much more in common with the concept of lifelong learning. Popular education posits not only the need to understand the political nature of education, not party political nature, but the fact that education involves choices, including where investment is made, but also education as a field in which we learn to understand and practice democracy and democratic values, the need for dialogue, the need to learn to listen, the need to give value to the knowledge and experience which people of all ages bring to the educational practices. PIMA has served as a relevant space in which to reflect on the challenges, climate change, higher education, conflict, etc., faced by education worldwide, and how these challenges are faced in different regions and realities of the globe. There are still enormous disparities between the global south and the global north, which require specific solutions. The old notion of one size fits all is irrelevant. Hence, PIMA needs to continue to express the diversity of educational policies and solutions with no attempt to suggest definitive paradigms. On the contrary, we need to celebrate the richness and diversity of humanity in terms of ethnicity, culture, religion, language, and so on. PIMA has members from all regions of the planet, and that constitutes a valuable asset which needs to be nourished. The importance of PIMA defending democratic values which permit diversity to flourish, which requires that education should contribute to our capacity to live together. Learning to live together continues to be a fundamental function of education. The understanding that we cannot separate learning and education from life, as many of our educational institutions do. Learning and education should contribute to the quality of life of all humans and to their general happiness. Hence, while lifelong learning expresses an affirmation, which is that in general humans possess the capacity and the need to continue learning throughout life, even for survival purposes, the way in which we attempt to materialize the concept in terms of organized learning opportunities will depend on diverse cultural, economic, linguistic, and other variables. Thus, the plurality of the space which PIMA offers and should continue to guarantee is crucial to its continuing relevance. All three functions attributed to PIMA are equally important, but perhaps if I had to choose one, it would be the need to constantly interrogate and question. To conclude, I would like to quote two phrases from the editorial for the special number on climate justice education, number 46, which perhaps sum up what I would like to express. The first is building trust amongst co-learners and creating learning spaces to explore new ways of seeing and relating are critically important. And secondly, we recognize the deep shifts taking place which demand of us all to unlearn, relearn, and learn new ways of being and living with sense of urgency, using every opportunity for deeply transformative practice. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It is a genuine pleasure and a great honor to be here today as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the PIMA network. My name is Suwithida Charungkaittikul, PIMA president. For the last decade, our network has been on a journey, and today I want to talk about a topic that is more crucial than ever for our future, the power of lifelong learning, from mindset to sustainable learning city. Have you ever felt like the world is moving so fast? It's almost impossible to keep up. Just look around. We are facing global crisis, rapid technology change, and uncertain economic landscape. The old model of education, where you learn everything you need to know in a classroom and then you are set for life, that's an illusion. It's simply not enough anymore. In fact, it's a phrase that I find myself repeating a lot. Doing more of the same is not enough. We must adapt, and that starts with us. I would like to point out two main essential aspects for lifelong learning encouragement in this digital and AI age. The first step isn't about policy or budget. It's about a change in our collective mindset. We need to move from a school-based culture to a life-based learning culture. This is the core of a growth mindset. It is the simple, powerful belief that our abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Think about it. A child who believes they can get better at math, with practice, will keep trying. And as adults who believe they can learn a new skill, will not give up. For us, as an individuals, this means embracing curiosity and viewing every challenge as a chance to grow. For our organization, it means fostering a culture that rewards effort and celebrates improvement, not just the final results. Our ultimate responsibility is to empower a new generation of learners who see learning as a continuous, personal investment, one that brings confidence and resilience in a changing world. Building a system for sustainable lifelong learning requires a truly holistic approach. It's about bringing everyone to the table. We need to bridge the divide between formal education, which happens in universities, and non-formal and informal learning, which happens in our communities and workplace. A key part of this is the recognition of learning. We must create systems that validate skills learned on the job, in community programs, or through micro-credentials, not just formal degrees. This is a mission we share with our incredible partners, higher education institutions, civil society, government agency, and international network like UNESCO Global Network of Learning City. Our role as PIMA Network is to be a rallying point, the bridge that connects these groups and help them forward this new learning system together. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture beyond mindset. We face systematic barriers. We are all dealing with the impact of global crises, from pandemics that disrupt our lives to the rising pressure of climate change and economic instability. These challenges often hit the most vulnerable first, which is why we also confronting profound inequality in learning. We see it in the digital divide, divide, and the lack of resources from many communities. And let's not forget the institutional silos. University, government, and business often operate in isolation, which make it incredibly difficult to create a seamless learning journey for citizens. This is a problem we must solve because lifelong learning is the key to bringing the longevity and generation gaps, ensuring that skilled workers and older adults remain a vital part of our workforce and our communities. But here's the good news. Within every challenge lies an opportunity. We have the chance to create a unified learning ecosystem to bridge the generation gap with lifelong learning and embrace technology to make learning more flexible and accessible. The PIMA network is designed to be a catalyst to help people and the city break down this barrier and to guide them on a path toward becoming a resilient learning city. So what is the role of the PIMA network? We are a regional relying point for policy dialogue and peer learning. Our mission is to move from theory to action, to turn global principles into local impact. This isn't just a mission for PIMA, it is our shared and urgent responsibility. Our work is a purposeful marathon, not a sprint. We are creating a ripple effect that starts with one person that touches everyone around them. It's begin with individual change, moving people from static to dynamic. This leads to group change, moving isolated groups to collaborative ones. This builds into community change, transforming fragile community into resilient ones. And ultimately, this all contribute to societal change, moving us from being a reactive society to a truly transformative one. This is a change we are building, brick to brick, partnership by partnership. And as we look ahead to our decade, let us all take a moment to reflect on our journey. We have achieved so much, but there is still so much to do. So I ask all of you, as leaders, as innovators, and as partners, one powerful question. What will our next decade be known for? Thank you very much all for your time and your attention today. The future of our city and our people depends on our collective action. And I invite you all of you to join us on this journey. You can find more information about our work, PIMA Network, at the link provided on the screen. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Dear colleagues, we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of PIMA, and I shall do a contribution today looking at the past towards the future we want through some biographical reflections. And I was reminded to do so after listening to Suwithida, Shirley, and Timothy, and on the reflection of the Sankofa work, looking back while moving forward. So I asked myself, how did I arrive at values PIMA holds up? Why do I advocate the human right to education and lifelong learning for all? And why is my priority on adult education and learning? So it is on how to reach and keep those values of PIMA in respect to peace, democracy, climate justice, gender equality. And as I'm from the generation where we were singing, Imagine all the people living life in peace, it may serve as reminders for you all. And I will do so looking back by jumping through the decades. So let me start for the 50 years by 1975. It was the end of the Vietnam War. We were looking out for peace. I was doing my doctorate in comparative studies on adult education and development in Tanzania at the University of Heidelberg. We had listened to Julius Nyerere and his New Year's Eve speech, where he claimed education never ends. And I was coordinating a study for the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning on the Tanzanian experience. It was the time where I was joining DVV International, and it was the years when I met Chris Duke, who later was one of the founding fathers of PIMA. A decade later, in 1985, I was director of the DVV office in Freetown, a visiting professor at the University of Sierra Leone, was teaching the diploma and certificate courses in adult education, and we did research into indigenous learning and training in the informal sector. And I came across the Mende proverb, learning starts in the womb and ends in the tomb. But it was also the decade where we had the end of the Berlin Wall, we had the reunification of East and West Germany, we had the integration of adult education, remembering that 1919 adult learning and education became a constitutional matter, including the Volkshochschulen. So we were ready to celebrate 100 years in 2019 later. 1995, I was director of DVV International in Bonn, and later moved to Hungary to become the director of the DVV office in Budapest. I served as an honorary professor of the University of Pécs, and I was starting to build up my golden triangles, that it is needed to look at the same time at government, civil society, and universities. We have to work on policy, legislation, financing for AIL together. In Hungary, we had conferences on AIL looking at the history, present, and the future. Confintea 5 in Hamburg, 1997 was coming up, and we participated in the World Education Forum 2000 and advocated education for all. 2005, I returned back as director to DVV International in Bonn. I served as a vice president for the International Council of Adult Education, as a vice president for the European Association. And it was a huge period of the development of lifelong learning in Europe through the Memorandum on Lifelong Learning by the European Union. We, as the EAA, did a study on trends and issues of adult learning and education in Europe. I was teaching at the universities and testing our new modules, which we had developed in the TEACH project, teaching adult educators in continuing higher education. And there was a communication by the European Union on it is never too late to learn, and an action plan, it's always a good time to learn. We participated in Confintea 6 in Belém. I joined the drafting group for the Belém framework, and it was a high period for the development of global recommendations on adult learning and education. 2015, a decade later, I was the regional director for Southeast Asia and Vientiane. It was in Laos, the most heavily bombed country on earth. We had the World Education Forum 2015 in Incheon, Korea, and we came up with an overarching goal for ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. It was also the year of my retirement, and it was the founding year of PIMA. And later I served as ExCo member and vice president. Of course, also it was the year when the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by the UN. Now we are in 2025. I'm still there and work on studies for DV International on the implementation of the Marrakesh framework in a variety of countries. We just looked at adult learning and education as responsibility of local authorities with a study on Armenia, Bosnia, Georgia, Kosovo, Moldova, and Ukraine, where the war is raging on in a neighboring country in Europe. I still teach at the University of Pécs in Würzburg. We are having an adult education academy where between 70 and 80 master and PhD students from some 15 universities around the world are joining, teaching in the Master of Lifelong Learning. And I'm still a member of the ExCo of PIMA and served as a co-editor of one of the recent bulletins on higher education and aid. Well, what's a decade ahead? 2035? I hope I will still be active in our local community. I'm a member of our Environmental Campaign Association against destructing industries. I'm a member of the Rebels on the Peace Path, a path which is built up in the neighborhood to remind us on peace as the most urgent matter. And I'm a reader in the kindergarten for the grandchildren where they are going. I enjoy, hopefully, even in 2035, the family, gardening, and tennis. And I trust I'm still a member of PIMA when we will be celebrating the 20 years, hopefully stronger than ever. And I'll be moving the next 15 years of Sustainable Development Goals 2045, and where will we have Confintea 8 and when. So looking ahead, I trust that PIMA will be an organization where we will all be happy to be working together and marching forward together to a better future. Thank you. Vielen Dank. And if I use the symbol of Sisyphus, then sometimes I have the feeling it is resembling our work that we have to roll the stone up, although we know it may roll down again. So thank you again, and let us continue enjoying the 10th anniversary of PIMA. Goodbye.